introduction.
All right, we're all set then. Go ahead, Virginia.
Thank you. Pee Wee Homes was started by some young people who were students in the Y. And that's how I got involved with it. We were at the Y blessed with the top of the class with some really outstanding young people. And I saw my job as encouraging them to follow the ideals and the efforts that they wanted to carry out. Several of them began work with the street people and the homeless folks in and around Chapel Hill. That was Maggie West and John Young. Others began work to stabilize the North Side neighborhood, and that became the Jackson Center for Making and Saving History. The Jackson Center has been a real home run in terms of stabilizing a historically Black neighborhood that had been tipping into investor-owned properties and student rentals. So Pee Wee Homes came out of those two efforts to help folks who are either homeless or have struggled with homelessness and to stabilize a historically Black community. And the idea they hit upon were tiny homes that would be rentals to folks who needed a safe and dignified and comfortable place to live. The first three were built out at Church of the Advocate, which is a new Episcopal parish in the northern part of Chapel Hill. There was a real commitment by the parish that this is something they wanted to do, and they were blessed with a 10-acre parcel of land, so they had plenty of room to put up these tiny homes. The next two are a duplex in North Side on Craig Street. There are two more in North Side on Mitchell Lane, and we are just breaking ground on three more that will be in North Side on Hill Street in Carborough. Each of these tiny homes is carefully designed to be as safe and as functional as possible. They have high ceilings so they don't feel cramped. Each home has some outdoor space, either a front porch or a patio or a yard space. There is an effort to, they have a washer dryer, a small but functional kitchen, and they are built in community in clusters of 2 or 3. And there's a real effort to connect them with the community around them. Over time, it has become apparent to us that our population are really elders. All of our residents are 55, even 60 plus years old. And for many of them, this will be their home, and as long as they are able to live independently. So we have added to the staff a part-time position, which is resident support. We have a wonderful person who is in constant touch with our residents to make sure they have what they need. They're connected to community supports such as Meals on Wheels or food box deliveries. They are up with their medical needs, doctor's appointments and the like. And they are connected as they can and choose to be with the community around them. So that's a little bit about Pee Wee Homes. It's not a magic answer. It's by far not the whole answer, but these are really safe and beautiful and dignified housing for folks who need it.
Wonderful. So maybe we could just like open it up for questions. Would that be a good way to do it, Virginia?
Sure, anything you would like to know that I can rustle up.
I'm wondering just some of the basic information, like who owns the units now?
All of the units are owned by Pee Wee Homes and they are rentals. And they are always going to be rentals. The rent is pegged at 30% of our residents' income, whatever that is. If it's $200 a month, that's what it is. And we are able to do that because they are built debt-free. We've been able to raise the funds to build them. In many cases, the land has been donated, but the organization is not carrying debt for the houses or anything else, and that enables us to keep the rents at a pretty modest level.
Linda.
I have a whole bunch of questions. So first
Okay.
of all, how do you screen the people that have the homes?
We have a tenant selection committee. We have both a screening rubric and a group of folks who interview. We're never short of candidates, as you may imagine, because there are a lot of people who need housing. We look at how long someone has been in Chapel Hill, in the area, a past struggle with homelessness, and the need for housing. We also look at, since these are built-in clusters, we are looking at 2 or 3 folks we think might get along and be community, or contribute to community. So in one instance, for example, we have 2 single women who are in tiny homes, the ones on Mitchell Lane. In other instances, we have veterans. And while there's no hard and fast rule, we are looking for folks who want to live in community and are seem that they would be compatible with neighbors and their little cluster of tiny homes.
My second question is, if you had unlimited funds, how many units would you really need? No one seems to be able to give me a handle on what the homeless population actually is.
I have seen different counts, which I think is probably endemic to the problem. There's the national count night in January, I believe, in most communities. In Orange County, it runs somewhere north of 100 folks, like 115, 120. But that does not include families who may be couch surfing, doubled up on with relatives or so. So it is hard to get a grasp on what the overall need is. I should say we are not able to serve families. These are cozy houses. They are 300 square feet and they are meant for individuals. But I hear you on trying to get your hands around the problem. The best count may come from Community Empowerment Fund. I don't know if you know them, but they are most closely working with the homeless population, or unsheltered, we're supposed to say now.
Virginia,
Now-
I'm curious about, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, Linda, go ahead.
I'm wondering, I mean, there are a number of people who have large lots, homes on large lots. And I'm wondering if people are willing to have a couple of units on large lots, what the town might be able to do to encourage people with large lots to, to accept units on their property.
I know that a number of other cities have looked at this. And I think the town is generally favorable towards it. I don't know that there is an actively encouragement policy now. I would want to note backyard cottages are not a magic answer either. And the notion that um, I think they serve a useful purpose. They probably are not as useful for housing formerly homeless folks as the intentional communities that come with resident support and efforts to build communities. I think backyard cottages are going to be much more suited to family situations, possibly rentals to graduate students or the like. Now, that's just my 2 cents worth, but that's my observation about it.
So David next, but I wanted to bring in April a second here because April and Kimberly organized a really powerful forum a few years back on tiny homes. And there was a lot of enthusiasm that was born out of that. And there were overtures made to the town government about getting support and some key ordinance changes so that you could do what you were just talking about, putting these small houses on lots. And April might want to mention that, it was not received well, right, April? I don't know if things have
Right. Yeah, it was not. Yeah, my partner and I, we had data from other counties and other states. I mean, people have, it can be done. The big thing that we were trying to get done is to reduce the infrastructure costs. So we wanted to keep the homes on wheels, which that was what the town was adamant about, putting it on a foundation, which, everyone on here knows what that entails on your property. So unfortunately, it was not something that the town of Chapel Hill was interested in doing. And we had a couple that was living in their own tiny house they built in the county in an undisclosed location. And they ended up buying property out in Alamance County, over 25 acres, and have developed a tiny house community out there. So again, they were hoping to do that in Orange County, but our leaders said no.
Well, is it possible that the town has changed a little bit, having worked with you, Virginia, or not?
It's certainly not anything I've done, but I think there has been considerable conversations recently because the housing shortage has gotten so acute. I think we need every solution that can be employed because there's a wide variety of folks who need housing.
David? I think you're on mute, David.
As we know, a large part of the homeless population are people with mental health and drug addiction issues. So how do you deal with that in your screening process?
We are not able to serve folks with serious ongoing challenges. We just don't have the staff capacity or the infrastructure to do that. So our residents are not coming out of addiction generally or struggling with serious ongoing mental issues.
Yeah, thanks.
UNC has a project called Penny Lane.
Yes,
And I'll put that in the chat. And that caters to folks with the kind of issues that David was talking about.
I think it's a great example of building community and building housing with support that is designed for the folks it is serving.
Go ahead, Charles.
Where is Penny Lane, or where will it be?
It's down in Chatham County,
Okay.
and I should know more, but I don't. Linda, you may.
It's,
You know,
I don't
April?
know that much about it, and I
It's-
put the link in the chat and you could take a
Yeah.
look at it.
it's
Thank you.
right south of what's that big place on the right?
Briarcliff,
Briar Chapel.
Creek.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Briar
it's actually, you do go in Briar Chapel's entrance, but then you turn off to the left and it's down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm so glad you all brought that up. That is a project that our Board of Commissioners helped to fund, and it's right across the border from Orange County by the district, which is a part of Briar Chapel, that newer development. And they work very closely with people, you know, with mental health needs, and it's incredible. It just opened recently.
Fabulous. So do you have any other? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I had spoken to James Zetta maybe a year and a half ago about county-owned land. And there is along 86 some county-owned land where utilities are in place. And I even contacted Alan Blancy about it because apparently James Zetta believed that land could not be sold for less than its actual value. But Alan Blancy had somebody in his staff do some digging, and it can if it's for affordable housing.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Did she indicate where along 86 it might be?
I don't really remember, but she actually at that time sent me some maps, and I've been looking all through my old emails and I can't find them. But it's right along 86. It's not far outside of Chapel Hill.
I
Okay,
thought it was land that was up by where the bus terminal is. Whatever that land is called, that road is called, I can't recall.
I'm not sure, but you're talking about near
Eubanks?
Eubanks?
Yes, Eubanks, thank you.
No, I
No.
don't think
Okay.
so. It was further up.
Okay.
across I-40.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. And hi, Virginia.
Hi.
I'm curious, I came into the meeting late, but I'm curious, what's the cost of construction of these small homes per square foot?
That is a painful topic. The first ones we built were roughly $50,000 for each little home, and they are roughly 300 square feet. So whatever that comes out to. The next ones were $100,000. And the ones we're building on Hill Street are going to be more than that, but primarily because the site had some real difficulties. We were given a slice of land, and it turns out there's a reason it hadn't been used. It has challenge. We're having to do quite a bit of site remediation, and that is pushing the cost of these units well over $100,000. So that's it's a problem, but it's one that affects everybody in the market.
Can you give us examples of the types of challenges you face in that regard?
Yes, there is a stormwater conduit that goes through the property. So we are having to carefully channel stormwater runoff and then fill in around it to make the site more usable for construction. But because our houses are so small, there is plenty of land that can be reclaimed. There'll be 3 houses, 2 together as a duplex and 1 separate as a standalone on that little sliver of land. It's on Hill Street at the corner of Hill Street and Broad Street in Carborough. Not far from Piedmont Health, if you know where that is, just about a block away.
Off Lloyd.
Correct.
Could you say some more, Virginia, about how you build community? Because I just think that that element is really interesting and would be important to new residents.
Well, I think one thing we have all learned, somewhat painfully through this pandemic, is that isolation is really difficult for everybody. And as folks get older and are not quite as mobile as they used to be, maybe, the need for connection is just as important. So the little houses are built in clusters, at least 2, usually 3. The occupants, we make an effort to find people we think could be compatible. And then the resident support person not only visits each resident once a week, but puts together social occasions of one kind or another to include them with their neighbors or with other residents or just the occupants of the little cluster. Or in the case of Church of the Advocate, the parishioners make an effort to reach out to our folks there and include them in whatever's going on. The houses on Mitchell Lane are not far from the Jackson Center. Excuse me. So the Jackson Center interns go by and will do some yard work a little bit or otherwise be in touch with the ladies there. And those 2 have also joined some quilt classes at Hargraves Community Center. So in Northside in particular, there are community opportunities on a regular basis, and our folks are encouraged but not required to participate as they choose.
April, you put something in the chat about Alamance County. Do you want to talk about that? There's a video, right? You're muted.
Yeah, that was a couple I talked about, that was in the presentation Kimberly and I did. So they're the ones that bought the land out in Alamance County. And that was just a video of a tiny house, kind of YouTubers coming in and videoing their now community. I mean, it's amazing out there. They have a community center. It just shows you what you could do with land if, you had the right zoning. And they have a sliding scale on the actual rent. So there's like a lawyer that lives out there that pays more for her lot rent versus somebody who, is not employed. And they make it work. It's been going on for several years now. So I just thought I'd share it.
That's great.
And I remember Kimberly, excuse me, April, that when you talked to the former mayor, there was, because Kimberly had such good background in being in the planning department, she knew sort of what changes need to be made in our ordinance to accommodate more easily. This, when people come up, have a piece of land, they want to do this, instead of having a bunch of barriers in front of them to make it a lot easier. And that didn't happen. But maybe with this new LUMO rewrite, people could press for that, you know, to make sure that in this land use management ordinance that they're rewriting, supposedly we want to have more affordable housing, right? This would be great to make it easier for this kind of thing to happen. Yeah, Charles.
Kind of half facetiously, because I can't control myself, was the Better Business Bureau behind them, or the Chamber, I'm sorry, the Chamber of Commerce behind that effort?
The land use effort?
Yeah, the
Or-
one down in that Julie was just talking about down in Alamance, where they were, or I'm sorry, where the request had been made to our last mayor to make things happen here, and nothing happened.
Yeah,
You know
I
what-
don't know if it went to the Better Business Bureau. I mean, they were looking for land in Orange County, and you know, they just couldn't. It had to be like, there was one place that has like farming, so it's kind of zoned as a farm, therefore you can have farm housing on it, quote unquote. But you know, they really wanted to have a community. It's a beautiful space, and Alamance County didn't have any zoning, so they were like, you know, they had to put in some serious drainage. They built a road and all that, but all the houses are on their wheels.
And who absorbs the cost for that?
Well, they did. I mean, they're a young couple, and this is their dream. And I mean, I know they're in debt, but you know, they're doing it. So yeah.
They took on the cost going into debt to develop a
Yeah.
community of tiny
Yes.
homes for people.
Yes.
There's
They did.
got to be some grant funding somewhere.
There's
to-
got to be, and there's
Yeah,
also got to
there's
be
grant
sanehood
funding to
somewhere
help
for
them.
those folks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they probably applied for all they could. I mean, they work, they're professionals, but yeah, this is the life they want to live, and they're
Wow.
hoping to put like an event space on the front. It's right off 54, to kind of help, you know, with the cost, and have some glamping on the back. The Hall River backs behind it, so they are going to try to generate some income. But the last year and a half, it's all been out, just money going out to get the infrastructure in.
Well, speaking of fundraising, Virginia, what do you have a fundraising effort then to keep things going?
We have been fortunate to receive some of the pandemic relief funding. So some of that was earmarked for housing, and we were able to get a couple of grants from that. We've also received support from Triangle Community Foundation, from the Carol Woods Foundation, others who are particularly interested in housing. And then we do an annual campaign for individuals, and there are other minor efforts. Carborough Methodist is setting up a fundraiser that'll benefit Pee Wee Homes, and we're very grateful for that kind of support. I should say about the villages in Chatham and Alamance County. On the whole, our residents don't drive. So we try to locate on the bus lines, and the buses in Chapel Hill are free. So that's a consideration as we look at serving elders. They're a little bit less mobile than younger folks might be.
Do you have more space at the Church of the Advocate for units? I mean, how many units could you place there?
There is more space, that they were gifted 20 acres, which is a huge parcel for a new parish. And there is more space, but we'd have to put utilities on this back parcel. We are looking at a parcel in Northside, that's in the land bank now, which might be used for a tiny home cluster and in connection with others, an elder support center of some kind. We're just in the talking stages, but it's the kind of community support that I think all communities are going to need. Elder care is not going away. I have gray hair myself, and it's just going to become a more prominent issue for every community.
So is everyone, other questions? Tom?
Yeah, again, when these tiny homes are constructed, are they constructed as energy efficient dwellings?
Yes.
Because if they're energy efficient, they reduce the operating cost significantly.
Yes, that every effort is made. The Hill Street houses will have solar panels. We are looking at, solar panels aren't always feasible. These are small dwellings, but where they are, we're putting them on. And then the internal efficiency, they are well insulated. They are built to strong standards, and so are often very energy efficient.
I would just mention to everybody, there's an article in today's News and Observer about the Home Builders Association lobbying against state regulations to improve the efficiency of new construction. So I'm glad to hear that, Virginia, because as people know, that's my bag these days, and it's very important.
I'll say. David?
So one of the things I'm wondering, of course, I'm one of those that's trying to save Legion Park for a park, but at the same time, we need affordable housing. So the question is, which is if there is a better way to go, putting in tiny homes versus putting in what the town is going to do, apparently, on the Legion property, which seemingly could accommodate more tiny homes than what they're actually going to build.
I don't think tiny homes will ever provide the scale that's needed in terms of affordable housing. I understand the proposal is for apartments and maybe townhouses or so. I don't see a tiny home village having anywhere close to the capacity that the town is talking about.
And what would be the largest sort of thing you could imagine, as you're looking ahead with the projects? I mean, if you actually got a piece of land, what's the largest kind of project you could contemplate taking on?
That's a really good question. We have Pee Wee Homes started as an all-volunteer organization. So our founding chair was a woman named Lisa Fishbeck, who was the rector out at Church of the Advocate. And she used to say that we are building the plane while we're flying it. And it does feel like that a lot. So I can't say we have a grand scale plan in mind. I believe that supporting these houses and residents is actually more important than building a bunch of them. So my guess is we'll go step by step, that the next Largest unit might be 5, 6, 7 tiny homes. And should we be able to do that and provide the infrastructure to support them, then we'd think about a step further after that. But I personally am not thinking in grand terms, and it's just a private observation of mine. Not everything should be scaled. Some things should be small, because nonprofits often don't have the capacity to expand, and do it well. I personally rather stay smallish and do a good job for the folks that we have. But I am just one person. Others may be thinking bigger, that I don't know about.
Well, I'm very impressed with the work you're doing. I'm wondering if you have heard of a program that the town tried as a pilot, and I don't really know if they're still doing it, but we thought it was a great idea. And Robert Dowling, who used to be at the Community Home Trust, who everybody thought of as, just knowing a lot about this stuff, thought it presented the best bang for the buck. And the idea is basically the town puts forward a fund of money, which then subsidizes rents. So it helps the folks that are like in shelters now, who are really trying to get back in the community, maybe to getting job skills and so on, but they need a place to live, but simply can't make that jump to afford a place, even maybe a tiny home. And that's such a wonderful idea that you could get a subsidy initially to get yourself launched. And I thought that was pretty powerful, but I don't know if that program still exists, and it would be easy to find out.
I don't know about that either, but I do know that rents have gone up, for everybody, and it gets harder and harder to make that jump.
Yeah.
So there is serious talk of a bond issue to support affordable housing. And if the town gets it together and passes a substantial bond issue, there might be room to try some new ideas. I'm all about that, actually.
Good. All right. Molly.
Julie,
Yes.
the master leasing project, Clay Grubb with Glenn Lennox is the only one that I know of participating in it. And yes, he still has, I think, 8 or 10 of the 70-year-old cottages like I live in are part of that master leasing program. He has some 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and they are only for the people that are like at 30% or less in the median area income, either in the shelter or about to go into the shelter. It's also like what Virginia is talking about, the Pee Wee Home Service. It is only serving the homeless or the near homeless. And they had a waiting list a year ago of 500 people.
Wow.
They do it by lottery. 500 people trying to access one of those apartments in Glen Lennox that is managed by the Community Home Trust. It was something that Justice United did. Virginia might know about it from that standpoint, but to my knowledge, no other developer or landlord is participating. And to me, I kept trying to get the town to pick it up and get when they start doing inclusionary housing, to get all the other developers to say, okay, we'll give you 10 of these apartments to this program. But no one but Clay so far has participated. Thank you, Virginia, for all you're doing. I wish I could access Pee Wee Home, even though I'm in Glen Lennox.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's everyone have had a chance to ask their questions. Do you have any further comments, Virginia? It's really been delightful to hear about your program.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. Again, it's not a magic answer, and tackling housing is going to take every every avenue that we have. But it is rewarding to see these tiny homes and the residents find a safe and comfortable and truly dignified home for elders in the community. So thank you all for
Yes, thank you.
listening.
Thank you,
Um,
Virginia.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much.
everyone for joining. Thank
I
you.
will put the website in the chat.
Yes, that would be great if you would.
As
Yeah.
it will do a better job than I can of answering specific questions. And you are all welcome to drive by and see the tiny homes if you should choose. And when the construction starts on Hill Street, actually putting up the structures, I will let Julie know, and you can come by and take a look.
Be terrific. Thank you, Virginia.
Great.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thanks for joining, April.
Yes, thank you, April.
All right, thank you all. And I'll wait for you to put that in the chat so I won't keep the thing running here. There it goes.
It's there. Mhm.
cityhomes.org. Got it. And then
Thank
Linda will collect the chat. That'd be great. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.